There is a specific day of the month that Jewish families have known about for centuries. A day when you should not pay a single bill. Not your rent, not your utilities, not your credit card, nothing. And when I tell you what that day is and why, you are going to understand something about money that nobody in a bank, nobody on financial television, nobody selling you a course has ever bothered to explain. Before I go any further, I want you to do one thing. Go to the comments right now and type the words, "I accept my wealth." Write it, because what I am about to share only lands for people who are ready to receive it. And writing those words is how you open yourself to receive. Now let me tell you what this is really about. Have you ever noticed that no matter how carefully you plan, the end of the month always seems to arrive before the money does? You budgeted, you cut back, you told yourself this month would be different, and somehow the numbers still do not add up. There is always something pulling at the money before you can hold it. The bill that arrives at the wrong moment. The automatic charge you forgot about. The payment that hits just when your account is at its lowest. If this sounds familiar, please hear me when I say this. It is not a coincidence, and it is not your fault. You were simply never taught when money is supposed to move, because timing in Jewish financial wisdom is everything. I have spent more than 30 years as a rabbi and a financial educator, and one of the most overlooked teachings I have ever come across does not get talked about in synagogues very often, and it certainly does not get talked about anywhere else. It comes from the laws of Shabbat and the ancient billing cycles of the Jewish calendar, and at the heart of it is a principle so simple, so practical, that once you understand it, you will never think about your bills the same way again. This teaching is connected to something I call the law of the appointed time. And it has to do with the relationship between when you give money out and when blessing is able to come back in. Let me tell you about a man I knew. I will call him Michael. Michael was an accountant. He was meticulous with numbers. He tracked every dollar. He paid his bills early, sometimes the moment they arrived, because he believed that being on top of his obligations meant he was in control of his finances. For years, Michael struggled, not because he was careless. He was one of the most careful people with money I have ever met. But there was a tightness to his financial life that he could not shake. He always felt like he was just barely keeping up. No matter how disciplined he was, there was never any room to breathe, never any space for something unexpected to come in. One afternoon, Michael came to speak with me. He sat down across from my desk and he said, "Rabbi Miriam, I do everything right. So why does it always feel like I am running in place?" And I asked him one question. I said, "Michael, when do you pay your bills?" He looked at me like I had asked something strange. He said, "As soon as they come in, sometimes even before they are due." And I said, "That is the problem." Now, I want to explain this carefully because it is easy to misunderstand. I am not telling you to pay your bills late. I am not telling you to ignore your obligations. That is not what this teaching is. What I am talking about is something much deeper. It is about understanding that in Jewish law and in Jewish tradition, there is a rhythm to how money is supposed to move. And when you pay against that rhythm, you create a financial tightness that no amount of discipline can fix. In the Talmud, in Tractate Bava Batra, the rabbis discuss the concept of Zman, the appointed time. The idea that transactions, obligations, and releases of money all carry spiritual and financial weight depending on when they occur. The ancient Jewish calendar was built around appointed times. There were times for planting and times for harvest, times for releasing and times for receiving, times when the channel of blessing was wide open, and times when closing out obligations only made sense. Here is the practical core of what I am teaching you. There is a specific window in the monthly cycle, rooted in the Jewish understanding of renewal, when paying out money closes the channel. And there is a window when completing your obligations actually opens it. Most people, like Michael, are paying in the wrong window entirely. They are releasing money at the exact moment their financial channel should be open and receiving. And then they wonder why nothing new comes in. Let me connect this to something concrete. The Jewish month does not begin the way the secular calendar does. It begins with the new moon, what we call Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month. In Jewish mystical tradition, specifically in the Zohar, Rosh Chodesh is described as a time of renewal, of opening, of new potential flowing into the world. The Kabbalists teach that in the days surrounding Rosh Chodesh, a person's capacity to receive is at its highest. This is not poetry. Our ancestors built their entire economic and agricultural calendar around this understanding. Now, here is what this means for your bills. The days immediately surrounding the new moon, the 2 or 3 days right before Rosh Chodesh, are what Jewish tradition considers the closing days of the old cycle. These are the days for completing, releasing, and settling what belongs to the past month. These are the correct days to pay your obligations. Not the moment a bill arrives. Not impulsively when you feel anxious about owing something. At the close of the cycle, deliberately, intentionally, as an act of completion. And then the days immediately after Rosh Chodesh, the opening days of the new cycle, those days you protect. You do not rush to pay things in those days. You hold that window open. You let the new energy of the month come in before you start pushing money out. I know this sounds unlike anything you have heard before. I know it does not match what financial advisors tell you. But I want to ask you something honest. Has the conventional advice actually worked for you? Have the automatic payments and the early payments and the constant vigilance over your obligations created the financial peace and the abundance you were hoping for? Or does it still feel tight? Michael came back to see me about 7 months after that conversation. He told me he had started paying his regular bills in the last few days of the Jewish month, looking up Rosh Chodesh on a Jewish calendar each month and using that to time his payments. Not late, never late, but deliberately timed to the close of the cycle. And he had stopped paying things the moment they arrived, especially in the first days after the new month began. He said something to me that I have never forgotten. He said, "Rabbi Miriam, I did not change how much I earn. I did not change how much I spend. I only changed when I release money. And for the first time in 15 years, I feel like there is air in my financial life." That is the word he used: air, space, room. That is exactly what the law of appointed time is designed to create. Now, I want to be clear about something. This teaching is not about magical thinking. It is not about astrology or superstition. The Jewish calendar is a legal and spiritual document that has governed the lives of our people for thousands of years. The timing principles embedded in it are not suggestions. They were commandments given to an entire nation, commandments that shaped how commerce, agriculture, debt, and obligation were all managed. When the Torah in Leviticus chapter 25 speaks of appointed times and the release of obligations, it is building an entire financial architecture. An architecture that the rest of the world simply never inherited. The principle underneath this teaching is straightforward. Money is energy, and like all energy, it moves better when it moves in alignment with natural cycles rather than against them. When you are constantly releasing money at random, reactive moments, the moment anxiety hits, the moment a bill arrives, the moment you feel behind, you are moving money against the current. You are working twice as hard for half the result. When you learn to time your releases to complete your obligations at the close of the cycle and protect your openings at the beginning, you begin to work with the current instead of against it. And that one shift, without changing your income, without changing your expenses, can change the entire feeling of your financial life. Here is what I want you to do starting this month. Go online and look up the Jewish calendar. Find out when the next Rosh Chodesh falls. Then identify the 3 days just before it. Those are your payment days for this month. Any bill that is not yet due, any obligation that does not have an urgent deadline, hold it until those closing days. Pay it then, deliberately, as an act of completion. And then, in the first 3 days after Rosh Chodesh, protect that window. Do not rush to pay anything that is not absolutely required in those days. Let yourself be in a posture of receiving rather than releasing. See what you notice. Give it 1 month, just 1 month. Now let me bring this together with something broader, because this teaching does not stand alone. It is part of a much larger pattern in Jewish wisdom. The understanding that everything in financial life has an appointed time. When to work and when to rest. When to release obligations and when to receive. When to give tzedakah and when to receive the blessing that giving opens. All of it is cyclical. All of it is timed. And the families who understand the timing are the families who prosper. Not because they work harder than everyone else, but because they work in alignment with something larger than themselves. I have watched families in my community live by these timing principles for decades, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, the families who pay attention to the cycle, who time their obligations to the close of the month, who protect the opening of the new month, those families have a quality of financial life that is difficult to explain any other way. There is room in their finances. There is ease. There is a sense that something is working with them rather than against them. Your season of tightness does not have to continue. The channel can open, but it requires you to stop paying against the current and start learning the timing that was written into creation itself. If what I have shared today touched something real in you, here is what I want you to do. First, if you have not already done it, go down to the comments right now and type the words, "I accept my wealth." Write it as a declaration, a statement to yourself and to God that you are ready to receive what has always been meant for you. Second, subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications, because each week I bring teachings like this one, ancient wisdom made practical for the financial life you are living today. Hit the like button if this reached you. It helps more people find this teaching. And share this video with someone in your life who is working hard but always feels behind. You may be the one who changes everything for them. There is a prayer we say at the beginning of each Jewish month, a prayer for the renewal of the cycle, for blessing in the days ahead, for the opening of new possibilities. The same God who built the cycles of time into creation, who appointed times for release and times for receiving, who sustained generations of our people through every kind of hardship, that same God sees you right now. Learn the timing, protect the opening, pay at the close, and watch what the new month brings.